Welcome back to the South Stands, a Buckeye football podcast by Ohio State fans for Ohio State fans. From the West Coast, I'm your host, Zach Moore. Today is Thursday, October 3rd, 2024, and I'm very happy to be joined once again by fellow South Stands contributor Paige Van Horn from Denver. PVH, how's it going, buddy?
Dude, it's going well. You know, medical procedures notwithstanding, I'm back on my feet and happy to be on the podcast. A little bring it home, Joe Toe. You know, we can talk about that later. We could have a long podcast about big toes and trauma, but this isn't the right format.
Yeah, and our man CP has some pedicure tips too. Maybe he can share at the end. We are also pleased to be joined by our man on the ground in Cleveland, Chad Plummer. CP, what's the word from the 216?
What up? Whoop, whoop, whoop. And I'll save all our listeners the images of his bunk ass toe. This is all I'll say is I like throw up in my mouth shit. But yeah, it's great to be on, guys. We're in the season now, baby. We're looking good. Obviously we got a lot of business to take care of, but you know what? It's good. It's Thursday night and we got Iowa favored by 3 touchdowns, man. Let's go, baby.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited, CP. All right. Yeah, a few things I want to accomplish this evening. First, guys, I want to take a quick look back at last Saturday's 38-7 win over Michigan State because our listeners have not yet had an opportunity to get your takes on that performance. Then I want to dive into Ohio State's next opponent. CP, you referenced them, the Iowa Hawkeyes, who visit the Horseshoe this Saturday afternoon. And if there's time at the end, maybe we can look at a couple of other games happening around the country, though it's not a super compelling slate. I believe there's only one top 25 matchup this weekend, and that's Missouri-Texas A&M, which, quite frankly, I couldn't care less about. And then there are 2 other games that stand out to me as somewhat interesting. Number 10, Michigan at Washington. That's a rematch of last year's national title game. And number 8, Miami visiting Cal, a game that Cal's Twitter is billing as Coke versus Woke. I love it. Love it. But first, let's have a look back let's have a look back at Ohio State's 38-7 win over Sparty in the Big Ten season opener. Now, not unlike the Marshall game, the Michigan State offense had success moving the ball on the Ohio State defense for much of the first half. Sparty put together 3 sustained first half drives, all of which ended inside the Ohio State 20-yard line. But unfortunately for Sparty, none of those drives resulted in points. The Buckeyes got a stop on downs on the first of those drives and forced fumbles on the other 2. The Silver Bullets buckled down after halftime, though, allowing only 60 total yards of offense to the Spartans in the second half. On offense, freshman phenom Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka carried the night, combining for 179 yards receiving on 12 receptions and 2 touchdowns. Smith also scored on a nifty 19-yard reverse. So, guys, the Buckeyes covered, had their starters on the bench by the start of the fourth quarter. Not a bad way to start the Big Ten schedule. CP, what did you see from the Buckeyes last Saturday that stood out to you?
I felt a lot of energy on that defensive unit, man. I feel like they are, we came out a little obviously sluggish for 2-3 weeks. But I'll tell you what, I feel like there's a nice little vibe, energy going on, a little nucleus with that defense, man. I think they're all they're kind of all in synchronicity, and I'm excited about it. I was a little concerned about a couple things that Knowles did, but I think he might have been testing out a couple different schemes, and that's obviously a game that you can do that kind of shit.
Right.
But yeah, man, I think they're as far as the defense goes, I feel like they're only going to get better week by week, man. I'm stoked.
Anything else stand out to you, CP, about that performance? How about on offense? What stood out to you?
I mean, offense, I think, dude, seriously, that number 4, that kid,
Yeah.
I mean, not only most of the fucking country who was watching that game was just in awe of who is this kid? He's 19 years old, man.
Unbelievable.
This kid is legit. He could be he's NFL ready right now.
I agree.
That's crazy. But yeah, that's what I noticed, and I noticed that offensive line, hey, Ben case, Kramer, he's all down on the O line. But you know what? They're coming together too. You know what I mean? They're going to mold. And Chip's not he's waiting. He's waiting to pull out some plays. But yeah, the offensive line is the only concern, and and it's starting to come together as well. So,
all right,
that's what stood out for me.
I love it. PVH, what stood out to you about last week's performance against Michigan State?
I think the biggest thing, and maybe I missed it, but like, who was the offensive player of the game, or who got the game ball? Actually, it's rhetorical. I don't really care, dude. Those two pickups that Trey had, your boy CP. I'm surprised you didn't call this out, dude. Were the two, like, he had two of the most impactful blocks for them to win that game. You know, like, it was insane.
Yeah.
And one of them, the guy came around, and I don't even know how he saw that guy. And, you know, in the moment, it's hard to see it, but like, you go back and kind of watch the big plays, the replays, dude, that was amazing. It was outstanding. And I think the one was to Ibuka, the other was to Smith.
To Smith, yeah.
But dude, I mean, those plays don't happen if he doesn't pick those guys up on the blitz. I mean, they struggled on the run game, but man, he was outstanding in pass blocking.
I love it.
That's the big thing.
It's like, it seems to be like a weekly thing, because there was I don't know if you saw that. I'm sure you did. Like the replay, like a couple times, he fucking flat out laid some dude out.
Yeah.
Right? You know what? I think he's got he's got Jesus on his shoulders, so he can see all that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, so.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
Nice to see.
I mentioned
our receivers are blockers as well. It's nice.
Yeah, I mentioned this on Sunday's pod, right? The one thing that I love about what we're seeing from our offensive skill guys, our star players, is what they're doing when they don't have the ball in their hands. I mean, you have Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka, Carnell Tate blocking really, really well down the field. You even have Quinshon Judkins as well, doing a good job in pass blocking. And of course, you guys have already mentioned several highlight reel pass protection blocks by Trey Henderson, including two scoring plays last Saturday. So I think that's a really good call out, PVH. What else stood out to you from the performance?
So, yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is that they were sluggish. I mean, I think and I think you referenced it. You were like, well, is this a glass? You could go glass half full, glass half empty on that performance. Michigan State, I mean, every call kind of went against them, and they were the right calls, and then they had untimely, turnovers, things like that. That game could have been way closer than it actually turned out to be. And the other thing is Ibuka, he pancaked some linebacker on some rush play that probably dude they would, and I think that's those are sort of the small things that might not be, they definitely don't show up in the stat sheet, but like those guys are actually playing for each other, and it's going to pay dividends for them down the line.
Here on that, that's a fucking statement right there, PVH.
Absolutely, and that's how championships are won. Is the little things. Yeah. And I don't think they were doing those little things over the last few seasons. I really don't.
And they're salty.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else, PVH?
I don't know that they really knew, like, how to, like, you know what I mean? They didn't really buy into that whole thing. Like, you know what? Hey, like, I'm, like, this kid here is just as talented as I am. You know what? I'm going to block my shit up, like, for, like, to, like, let him make a play or, this and that. Like, it's brilliant to see.
Yeah. And so we're like, officially... I remember when Chase Young was just terrorizing, some poor offensive lineman. And I'm like, who's the guy that's just going to get absolutely destroyed by Chase Young this weekend? I mean, the biggest thing is, man, like, we have number 4 and they don't.
Yeah.
And dude, like, that guy, dude, he is a will breaker. He's a team breaker. Like, you're like, what? Like, if you're at Michigan State and you're like, come on, man. What am I supposed to do with that? I mean, both those 2 catches in the end around, but those 2 catches are just like, seriously, it's like Steph Curry, like launching a 3 from half court, and it's just nothing but net. It's just like, dude, I don't know what to do with that, and that will break a Will's team so much, and which it absolutely did, right? Like when he caught that. It was over at that point. There's like, dude, there's nothing we can do with this team.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting at the end of the very end of the second quarter.
Don't let me die today.
Yeah. At the very end of the second quarter, there was a flurry of haymakers that I thought Ohio State landed that broke Michigan State's will, and it ended with the one-handed touchdown catch by Jeremiah Smith. But if you go back to the previous Michigan State possession, JT Tuimoloau blows right through the left tackle and sacks Aiden Childs. And then on the very next play on third down and long, you had Caleb Downs flying up from the safety position and dumping their running back or their receiver for a 1-yard loss to force the punt. Then Ohio State goes on a 44-second scoring drive, punctuated by the 2 one-handed grabs by Jeremiah Smith, the long pass from Howard, and then the touchdown grab from Brown. A flurry like that, it's devastating. And I think, to your point, PBH, I think it completely broke Michigan State's will. And I think that's what this team is, right? That's how they're going to turn the lights out on teams. It's just a flurry of haymakers from their star players. By the way, all those players I mentioned, 5 stars. 5-star, just 5-star talent. CP, I'm going to kick this back to you. Any other observations from last Saturday?
You know what's so great? It's like the younger dudes that we're seeing on the field, man, that are getting time.
Yeah.
Those reps for those kids, are huge. You know what I mean? Like, those freshmen, Peoples, that kid's fucking got to be a baller, dude. He's getting reps in the backfield. He looks really good. I mean, there's a lot of young dudes on this team, obviously, which, 1 or 2, in recruiting class last, 2 or 3 years. But it's nice that they're getting those reps right there. And you know what? Everybody can say what they will about, the fucking – Cinderella, little fucking marshmallow schedule up until now. But you know what? Hey, it's all good. I love the reps. And the only other thing I'll say is it was nice to see JT show up. He had some nice plays.
He did.
On Saturday.
Yes, he did.
And number 33, it's time to ABC you later, dude. Come on. Just do yourself a favor. Go out gracefully, get in the portal and go start somewhere and get your legacy somewhere else, because it ain't happening here.
You're talking about Devin Brown and not Jack Sawyer, right?
Oh yeah, number 33.
Yeah, we know you're talking.
It's time.
Yeah. I guess the Devin Brown fans might point to the touchdown throw to Jeremiah Smith, but I'm like, look, that's an incomplete pass. That's an overthrow to any other receiver in the country except Smith.
Right.
100%.
It actually has to be, in the pantheon of the 110-year history of Ohio State football, one of the greatest catches ever for Devin Brown to actually throw a touchdown. So.
Oh my God, dude! Yeah, and that was it was almost fake, you know what I mean? It was just edited. He caught the ball. Dude, that was insane.
You guys heard my recap from Sunday, so I'm not going to go too much into what I said there. I don't want to repeat myself too much. There has been an interesting debate this week among the various members of the Ohio State beat about how much it actually benefits the defense to match personnel when the opponents go to 2 tight end sets. Ohio State did a fair amount of that against Michigan State when Sparty went to 2 tight end sets. They played 3 linebackers. I didn't realize that until I rewatched the game. Now, the Buckeyes, I think, are almost certainly going to take the same approach against a run-heavy Iowa offense on Saturday. But when Jim Knowles plays that 3rd linebacker, it means taking one of his top 7 or 8 defenders in Jordan Hancock off the field. And the point that a lot of the guys in the beat have been making this week is, look, Hancock's actually pretty good against the run. And we know what he can do in coverage, and as a playmaker in that secondary, he forced a fumble against Sparty in the first half. So I think there's good reason to question whether fewer snaps for Hancock is a good idea, especially when the linebacker play has been a bit of a mixed bag so far. I mean, Cody Simon and Arvell Reese have played well. Right, their overall PFF grades at the moment are both over 79. But Sonny Styles, I think it's fair to say, has struggled a little bit at linebacker. And to be fair, this is the first time he's played that position in his career. His overall PFF grade for the season is only 65. He's also struggled in coverage against opposing tight ends. His coverage grade this season is only 54.5. Now, so far, Styles has played almost twice as many snaps as Arvell Reese, and I'm personally starting to wonder if there should be more of a timeshare between those 2 players than what we've seen so far. And then beyond that, I think there is this bigger discussion about, is the defense just better off when Jordan Hancock just stays on the field? right? Regardless of what opposing offenses are showing them. So I think this is perhaps the biggest remaining question about this team as Ohio State heads into the meat of their schedule. I mean, guys, we've talked about this section of the schedule for months. It starts with Iowa on Saturday. If you think about it, the Buckeyes' remaining opponents right now are a combined 27-8 overall. 6 of those teams are either unbeaten or have one loss. Only Purdue has a losing record. If you look at the latest SP Plus rankings, 4 of them are in the top 20, including Iowa, who's 17th. The others are Penn State, number 6, Oregon, number 8, and Michigan, number 15. And then you have Nebraska at number 28, and Indiana all of a sudden looks like a legit team. They're at number 29 in the SP Plus.
Coach, I love that coach.
I like him too. Kurt Sinetti, he's doing a great job there. So the point I'm trying to make here is there's really not much time left for the coaching staff to figure out the linebacker rotation and, of course, how many snaps they want to give Jordan Hancock. They got to get that figured out as soon as this Saturday against Iowa.
Ransom's having like an All-American season.
Yep.
They just seem like, let's maybe go outside of like the mold. I mean, Sonny Style, like he should be on the field. So if it's not in that particular linebacker, like let's find like somewhere that he can, like, you know what I mean, because he's gonna make plays.
Yeah,
I mean, I feel like he's uncomfortable. I feel like the CJ Hicks whole thing. He's like, you know what, like the schemes, like, you know, let's dumb it down a bit. These motherfuckers could just chase the ball.
Yeah,
I mean,
it may be. Yeah, I don't know what the answer is. I mean, I think there's good reason to trust that Styles will figure it out. He'll get better as the season goes along. This is his first year of playing the position at this level, so you do have to cut the kid a little bit of a break. But at the same time, it's tough for the coaching staff because Reese is coming on, right? And it might be just a case of like he's too good to keep off the field, right?
Quick.
So these are first world problems, right? I mean, the good news is Ohio State has a lot of options, right? But I wonder if
we're not like talking about a 3-legged dog here.
Yeah, I just wonder if the best option is, hey, let's just keep Jordan Hancock on the field. I mean, he's too good to
Paige,
take
you're
off.
You're going to be like a kind of like a 3-legged dog here soon once they cut your big toe off.
I know. Well, I'm sure a couple of those guys have turf toe, which is their problem.
Oh,
dude, this is kind of like this is actually like. How many years are we going to have to debate the linebackers at Ohio State? If you go back in the archives, this is the same conversation we had in 2022. Styles, I don't care what your star rating is, right? Like you're either good or you're not, right? Like CJ Hicks, man. Like it's just it's been pretty uninspiring. And so again, I don't want to be Debbie Downer, Chad. So just put a cork in it for a second, but it's going to be an issue once we start playing better teams.
Yep.
It's clear that Reese is better than those other guys. And again, it's almost like this hesitation to play your best players in weird situations. And I don't understand what it is. It all, it's all fine and dandy when you're playing Akron and Western Connecticut. But I mean, dude, it's not going to fly when you play where we want to go, right? The best teams in the country.
Exactly. And that's why I'm 100% agreeing with you. And that's exactly what I just said there. Like we don't have to like label them, but find them like somewhere on the field that can just get after the ball because they're
not good enough to be on the field.
Yeah.
CJ Hicks isn't good enough to be on the field. He's just not.
He should be an edge rusher,
the guy
man.
Doesn't make any plays.
Yeah, I mean, CJ Hicks. Wow. I think CJ Hicks' window is closed, and I know people think that you look at the physical attributes, and he looks like he could be a good edge rusher, but we're fine at edge rusher. We don't. I mean, I think the problem is there are established pass rushers on this team that are going to play ahead of him, and clearly there are 3 other linebackers that have him. CJ Hicks, his window's closed for 2024, unless, God forbid, there's an injury. Yeah. I mean, I don't even think he's even worth talking about. The conversation is Reese and Styles alongside Cody Simon. That's the conversation. And then the question is, when Ohio State is playing run-heavy teams, do they maybe leave Jordan Hancock on the field a little bit more rather than matching up personnel-wise with what the other team is doing? I think that's the discussion. Go ahead, CP.
Well, like I 100% agree. I mean, I wanted to bring, CJ along. Like, I mean, obviously, like something's just not clicking there.
Mm-hmm.
The kid's fast as shit, but like it's not working out. So whatever. You know what? Hey, sorry, dude.
Yeah.
CJ.
It happens.
Whatever. Go transfer. You got 2 years eligibility. Go somewhere and be an edge rusher. Fucking go to Colorado or somewhere, dude.
Yeah. Yep.
Who's our running back that went to Colorado? Was it Don?
Dallin Hayden. Dallin Hayden.
Yeah. Is he playing? Is he balling?
Yeah, I think he dealt with some injuries. I think he is getting some playing time, though. But I see your point, right? Look, this is not the first time we've seen this happen. A highly rated player comes in. There's circumstances, whether it's injuries or not, or some kid comes out of nowhere like Arvell Reese and just plays better. But to me, that's the discussion.
Who's the player number 92?
All right, let's move on. We beat this horse to death.
Caden Curry, dude. That kid's a baller.
Yep, Caden Curry as well. And he actually graded out really well last week against Michigan State. We'll talk about Curry here as we turn our attention, guys, to this Saturday. The unranked 3-1 Iowa Hawkeyes visit the Horseshoe to take on an undefeated and number 3 ranked Ohio State Buckeye team. This game is a 3:30 p.m. Eastern kick on CBS. The line is Ohio State minus 20. Whoop. The over-under is 44.5. Ohio State leads the all-time series between these two schools 48-15 with 3 ties. That includes a 54-10 Ohio State victory in Columbus back in 2022, which is the last time these two schools played. So bear with me here, guys. I got some information I want to share on Iowa, and then I want to kick it over to you to get your takes on this game. The Hawkeyes are coming off an off week. They did not play last Saturday. And the last time we saw them, they were 31-14 road winners over Minnesota. The only blemish for Kirk Ferentz's squad so far this season is a 20-19 home loss to Iowa State back on September 7th. Now on defense, this Iowa team appears to be a notch below their usual standard. Phil Parker's unit is currently 18th nationally in total defense and 29th in defensive yards per play. They are still excellent against the run, 4th nationally, allowing 62 yards per game. I think where Iowa is significantly below their usual standard, guys, is against the pass. They're all the way down at 69th nationally in pass defense after finishing 5th in that stat a year ago. Now, the strength of this Iowa defense is up the middle, starting with linebacker Jay Higgins, who led the country in tackles last season. He is, of course, Iowa's leading tackler so far this season. Higgins is also their highest graded defender according to PFF with an overall grade of 90.9. Defensive tackles Yaya Black and Aaron Graves anchor a stout Iowa defensive line. Black and Graves are both over 6'4" and well over 300 pounds. Those are some big boys. And they will challenge the interior of the Ohio State offensive line, I think. Might be a tough day running the football for Quinshon Judkins and Trey Henderson against that trio, Higgins, Black, and Graves. We'll see. Now on offense, the Iowa offense is led by former Michigan quarterback Cade McNamara. And so far, it's been a pretty pedestrian season for McNamara. Only 3 touchdown passes to 2 INTs. He's only averaging 5.8 yards per attempt. Iowa as a team is currently 124th nationally in passing offense. That's just dreadful. But the player to watch for Iowa is junior running back Caleb Johnson. He is an Ohio native from Hamilton. Johnson is having a spectacular season so far. He's second in the country only to Ashton Jeanty of Boise State in rushing with 685 yards on 82 carries. Johnson averages 8.35 yards per carry and already has 9 rushing touchdowns. Only Jeanty and Tennessee's Dylan Sampson have more rushing touchdowns than Johnson so far this season. Finally, tight end Luke Lachey, another Ohio native and son of former Buckeye Jim Lachey, is probably Iowa's second best player on offense. Lachey has been a little quiet so far this season, only 12 catches for 97 yards, but he's a good player the Buckeyes are going to have to account for. CP, I'm going to kick this over to you. Give me a few thoughts on this game.
Well, I'll tell you what, Johnson is doing no favors to himself. He's doing a lot of bulletin board material this week.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if Ohio State would have offered me, I wouldn't even accept the offer. You know, shut the fuck up, dude.
Wow.
If you were worthy, you would have got an offer, dude. You know, he's been that's been his shtick the entire week. If they would have they would have offered me, I wouldn't even have gone there.
Interesting.
But, I'm most excited to see this weekend. Other than that, because I know what we have on offense is what this offensive line can do against a defense that's ranked, with players like that on it. I wanted to see how they stack up right there, and that's going to be a good test for us. Going into Oregon, let them the unit needs to come together, and how they play is that's going to be a huge huge thing for me. Other than that, I'm not worried about anything else. But like, I just want to see how they do.
Okay, well, that's a good call out. This is probably the best defensive line Ohio State will have seen to date. And, the offensive line has looked good, but we're going to find out just how improved they actually are in this matchup, I think. PBH, I'm going to kick this over to you. Give me a few thoughts on this game.
So 2 things. Yaya Black. I mean, that's got to make the top 5 greatest names.
Love it.
Like, it's up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Luke Lachey, where did he go to high school, Zach?
He is a proud alum of Grandview Heights High School, the alma mater of yours truly.
The alma mater. And who else went to Grandview Heights High School?
Oh, yeah, our friend and respected colleague, Juan Yanesa.
Uncle Juan. Uncle Juan went to Grandview.
You guys both went to Grandview Heights. Like,
that's right.
I didn't know that shit.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I didn't know until Juan called me and told me 10 minutes ago.
No way, dude. That is. Did you guys know each other?
Funny enough,
he's probably he was like a senior when you were a freshman.
Well, his cousin, he was. I think he was even further out than that. But his cousin Vicky was my Spanish teacher.
He's an old motherfucker. Whatever, dude.
Whatever. Juan called me, gave me some tidbits. He knew I was on the injured reserve all week, so he's like, "Dude, you probably didn't do your homework." So here tidbit. Here's another fun tidbit.
All right, let's hear it.
Yes, Iowa leads the nation in yards or carries, rushing yards of 20 or more yards. I can't even say it. They lead the nation in rushing 20 yards plus. How do you even say that? We might have to edit this out.
Yes, they lead the country in rushing attempts
carries over 20 yards.
Carries over 20 plus yards. Yeah, basically. We know what you're saying.
Times.
Yep.
I didn't even know what I'm saying. See, this is what happens when people give me notes, and I'm like, I don't even know what this means. And that guy's running his mouth, which is, it's probably not a good look, dude.
Yeah.
That never really works out, especially when you're the underdog. I'm excited generally for hopefully a competitive game. I kind of thought we might have had one last week, and maybe we did, maybe we didn't. But I do think the glorious start time, which to me the best start time is 3:30 in the shoe, right?
Yep, that's the sweet spot.
Is perfect.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the sweet spot. So I expect, maybe a close competitive game for a little bit, but you can't be one-dimensional and beat Ohio State. I mean, or Georgia or, any team, the top teams in the country. You can't be that bad, offensively, and, say what you will about Michigan. Like, McCarthy could make some plays when he had to. You can't rinse and repeat that. And then the other thing is, again, I don't know what rule this is in the manifesto, but if your second best offensive player is a tight end, that's not good enough to beat, teams like Ohio State.
There are 2 matchups that stand out to me in this game that I think will determine the outcome. The first is the Ohio State linebackers and safeties against Caleb Johnson and Luke Lachey. Now, according to PFF, the Buckeyes are coming off their worst tackling game of the season against Michigan State. As a team, the Buckeyes finished with a tackling grade of 48.6, and they had several starters grade out in the 20s, including Cody Simon and Lathan Ransom, funny enough. Last Saturday was also a rough night for Sonny Styles in coverage. He finished with a coverage grade of 42.9. He got cooked by Sparty tight end Jack Velling for a long pass play. Styles is fortunate that Jordan Hancock stripped Velling on that play, though, which ended that scoring threat. So I think it's imperative that the Ohio State linebackers and safeties tackle well in space. Because Caleb Johnson, as you guys mentioned, he makes a living off of breaking tackles at the second level and springing those for long runs. And the Iowa offense pretty much depends on that very thing happening several times a game. And again, Sonny Styles has to be much better in coverage against Luke Lachey than he was last Saturday against Sparty. Now, the other matchup that stands out to me is the Ohio State receivers against the Iowa secondary. The Hawkeyes do not have a Cooper DeJean in their secondary this year. Now, they have a good slot corner in Sebastian Castro. They have a good young safety in Xavier Wampa, who Ohio State recruited. But the Hawkeyes gave up 272 passing yards and 2 passing touchdowns to Rocco Becht in the loss to Iowa State. They gave up over 200 yards passing and 2 passing touchdowns to a very limited Minnesota offense a couple weeks ago. And they've already allowed 3 touchdown passes of 60-plus yards this season, including 2 against Troy. So I think it's very weird to see an Iowa defense give up that many plays through the air, especially to that level of competition. And I think, having said all that, Smith, Egbuka, and Tate could go off on that Iowa secondary this Saturday. CP, I'm going to kick this back to you. Any other observations about this matchup before we go to score predictions?
I'm excited to see what we're going to do against this defense. I mean, this is going to be one of the best defenses we've seen. Probably in the next, until we get to the playoff. I mean, they're ranked Iowa's defense. Let's see what we can do on both sides. Offensive line, weapons, this and that. I'm excited about it because I think we're going to. I mean, there's a reason the line's 3 touchdowns.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah, this should be a very good test for the Ohio State offense. This is a top 20 defense in most areas by Iowa, but somewhat diminished from the level of Iowa defenses that we've become accustomed to over the last few years. I don't think they're quite as good as we've seen in recent years. PBH, anything else you want to share about this matchup before we go into score predictions?
Yeah. I mean, I think the defense has been a little lackluster the last 2 weeks. But what are you going to learn about a team that's that one-dimensional? But you're going up against, God, what'd you say, 8.3 yards per carry? That's pretty damn impressive.
Yeah.
So, but that, kind of plays into the strength of Ohio State. Those types of teams worry me way less than guys that just have, amazing skill players. And I think it's, maybe a get-right game for our linebackers. And then, offensively, just keep doing what you're doing. And I think you're right? It could be just an amazing day for our wideouts. I don't know how you stop this offense. But, schematically, what does Ohio State do, right? I mean, on defense, obviously, you're just going to stack the box and, take your chances, right?
Yep.
You're going to put Burke and, Igmanos in one-on-one coverages. And if they beat us, they beat us, but there's going to be 9 or 8 guys in the box. I think the more interesting thing is how we attack them offensively against their defense, because we all know Iowa's going to have a good defense, but it's just, it could be a game for a while, but typically it's just not enough, right? You got to be more, than one-dimensional to have a chance with guys that Ohio State has.
Yeah, I think you have to be dynamic at quarterback and in the passing game to have a chance to beat a defense this good, and Iowa is clearly not that.
And the last thing that Cade McNamara is dynamic.
Yeah. No, very, very limited passing game. And yes, I would think Ohio State would be able to commit extra men to the line of scrimmage to slow down Caleb Johnson for sure in this matchup.
I do wish Cade McNamara could run the football though, because I feel like that's been one of our downfalls. The quarterback runs. Look at Marshall. Because Dylan Gabriel, he's gonna pull up if there's nothing there. He's gonna run the ball. We
got to be ready for that.
When are we gonna stuff? When are we gonna stuff that shit? You know what I mean?
It's tough to defend. I think every defense struggles with it. Yeah, I think every defense struggles with it. Even the best out there, a mobile quarterback is kind of it's the kryptonite for a great defense. All right, fellas, let's get to some score predictions. Again, the line is Ohio State -20. The over-under is 44.5. CP, get us started.
I think we hold them to 7 points. I'm going to go 7 points.
Okay.
I was going to go 10, but I'm going to go 7. I think we score 52.
52-7. Ooh, boy. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I like it.
That must be the mezcal talking.
All right. PVH, give us a score prediction.
Well, I have because Uncle Juan gave me a call at the Grandview Heights connection. He gave me I asked for his prediction. He's got the Buckeyes 35-13. Uncle Juan.
All right.
And I'm pretty close to that. I think. Yeah, I'm going 39-10.
39-10. Okay. Yeah, I think this game is going to be a rock fight for a while. I'm not expecting a big day from the Ohio State rushing attack, but I'd be very happy to be wrong about that. But without the threat of even a competent passing game, it's just really hard to imagine Iowa generating enough offense to keep pace with the Buckeyes in this game. I mean, their whole offense is predicated on broken tackles by Caleb Johnson. who admittedly is very good. And then after Johnson, Iowa's biggest threat is a tight end. And PBH, you know our axiom about that.
Yep. That's rule number 4.
I just don't think it's going to be nearly enough unless the Buckeyes commit 3 or 4 turnovers, right? And while this is a solid Iowa defense, it is a notch or 2 below its usual standard, as I've mentioned. And I would think even a great Iowa defense would have trouble stopping all the weapons on this Ohio State offense. I think Buckeye fans will have to be patient for it to happen. It might take a couple of quarters, but I do think Ohio State blows this game open eventually and finishes with a 35-6 victory.
So there's one aspect we haven't talked about.
All right, let's do it.
Which is the quintessential rule number 2. And I don't kind of feel like it's there, but is this potentially a not taking our opponent seriously because we're looking ahead to Oregon?
Yeah.
Gambling manifesto rule.
I would be very surprised if that turned out to be the case with a team this veteran and a team with so much to prove. And I would be very surprised. A younger team, yes. 2 years ago, perhaps. But with all those seniors, boy, I would be very surprised if that happened. But it is a good call out. What do you think, CP?
No, the vision boards do not have anything like that to allude to that. No.
Okay.
It's all fucking tunnel vision to fucking January, the mid-January.
I tend to agree.
And this is exactly why it happens, because nobody's thinking about it. This is exactly why it happens.
Yeah,
I'm telling you.
So you're calling it PVH? You think that might be a factor on Saturday?
Dude,
I was covering the spread.
No, but I'm just saying it's always a thing. And when everyone says, no, it's not a thing, that's when it becomes a thing.
Could be right.
I mean, the hype for the Ohio State-Oregon game in 10 days from now is off the charts. If we're thinking about it, they're thinking about it. Everybody's thinking about it. It's they know about it and they talk about it and they deal with it. And then when it happens, everyone is surprised. That's why it's a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree, but I don't think our the coaches are allowing these guys to look ahead. I think they're focused on 3 days from now, 2 days from now, and you know what? They know they have a big matchup because most of the fucking college game day board picked Oregon to win the national championship. So you know what? They're thinking about that, dude. They're focused. I'm not worried about that.
I mean, anything's possible when we're talking about 18 to 22-year-old kids, but I would just be very surprised with this particular team, given how veteran they are, that happens. But anything's possible. Could happen. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Throwing it out there.
If this game is close, I will seriously run down the street, my street, with no pants on.
All right, we want video evidence of that.
I'll give you my toe. I'll give you my toe.
All right, fellas. Listen, we got a few other games we want to look at before I let you guys go. Let's have a quick look at a little Friday night Big Ten action on Fox with Michigan State visiting number 6 Oregon. I've been digging the Friday night Big Ten action myself. Yeah. Now this game is a 9 p.m. Eastern.
Friday night football is a nice, refreshing thing.
Yeah, it is.
I like it.
This game is a 9 p.m. Eastern kick. Again, it's on Fox. The line is Oregon minus 23.5. The over/under is 52.5. CP, does any funny business happen in this game with Oregon possibly looking ahead to Ohio State, or do the Ducks roll?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Ducks are just, they're only getting better.
Yeah, seems like it.
Yeah, you know what? I think they're Lanning is he's a great football mind. I don't think he's going to let them look ahead. They've been that thing's been fucking 3D on their schedule for fucking since it came out. They're we'll get business taken care of on Friday night. Let's prepare for next week when the Buckeyes come to town.
Okay,
so I think this is probably they're gonna roll Michigan State.
Okay, you like them to cover as well.
Yep.
Okay, great. PVH, how do you see this game?
100%.
Dude, the reason why I mentioned Ohio State, this is the quintessential Oregon look-ahead game. It is. It's at home. It's against a team that just lost a game to Ohio State. I don't know if they'll. I do think Oregon will cover. I love this game over because if any team is going to get caught in that trap of looking ahead, it's Oregon against Michigan State and a team okay, so people think, oh, they just got beat by Ohio State. Now they got to go out to Oregon. I love this game over. And the other thing I know, because we're not going to talk about it later, but dude, I love Vanderbilt plus 23 at home against Alabama for the letdown game.
Oh, that's right. Okay. All right. It's a good call out. Yeah.
Vanderbilt's not half bad, by the way.
Yeah. So you're right.
I just think those two things, it will not surprise me if the Michigan State Oregon is much closer than we think.
I like that. That's a good call out. Aiden Childs, he's a nice looking young quarterback. He's got some skills, and he had it going there in the first half for a while. And I think Sparty has some decent skill talent around him as well. They've got good receivers. I think they've got a pair of good running backs, and they have a solid defense. You got me rethinking my pick. I thought the Ducks would in Autzen Stadium would win and cover, but now you got me rethinking it. I'll go in between. I think this is a good game for a couple quarters. That Oregon takes care of business. They pull away, but man, that's an interesting call out there, PVH. You might be right.
And by the way, my hedge is, because I kind of agree with you, is the over. That I think Michigan State's going to put up some points on those guys. Now, I think Oregon could cover, probably will cover, but I bet you it's a high-scoring game. And it won't surprise me if it turns out to be much closer than we think about.
All right. I love it. That's a great call out. All right. Next up, number 10, Michigan visits unranked Washington on Saturday night. This game is a 7:30 p.m. Eastern kick on NBC Peacock. Now, this is interesting, fellas. We talked about this before we jumped on. The line is Washington minus 2.5. The over-under is 41.5. Both of these teams are undergoing major rebuilds after playing for the national title a year ago. Washington is coming off a very competitive 20-18 loss at Rutgers. Michigan is coming off what turned into a very uncomfortable 27-24 home win over Minnesota, a game in which the Wolverines blew a 21-0 lead. Vegas likes the Huskies in this game, guys. CP, what do you think?
I'll tell you what, this is probably 24. This is the most bizarre line that I've seen to date. Come on. Washington's they've shown some glimmers of hey, it's okay that DeBoer laughed or whatever. They're still doing. But Michigan just laced up on fucking USC, dude. Washington's not ready for smash mouth football either. There's something going on here that we don't know about, which is just leads me to believe that we should put a couple dimes on Washington. But I just can't see it how that it could even be possible. So to me, I would, if I had to bet, if somebody were had a gun up to my head, I'd take Michigan.
Okay.
But it's just bizarro world, dude. It's very weird.
Yeah, you like Michigan. Okay, PVH, how do you see this game?
I think Michigan still does enough things well that travel on the road, right?
Yep.
Plays defense and runs the ball. And so Washington, they lost a coach. They got decimated, by losing, guys, the NFL or, whatever.
Went off to Arizona,
Yeah. So, but why Vegas likes them -2? Because they're at home. But dude, no, I like Michigan to pull this one out.
I think Vegas is setting everybody up in the fucking fucking
so it's a
world.
setup.
Take Michigan, take me, and then the fucking Washington's gonna fucking, they might.
Then we
lose the game.
We don't
agree.
They'll
cover.
Maybe we're overthinking this a little bit. The way Michigan has not looked great. I know they beat USC, but they struggled to beat Fresno State. They were life and death to beat Minnesota. They run the ball well. They play defense, but their style of play lends itself to really close games. And Washington actually isn't that bad. They actually have a very good defense. They're 10th nationally in total defense. Now only 51st against a run, but they're still very good on defense. They're historically very tough to beat in Husky Stadium. I can totally see a close game in this one, and I could totally envision a Washington upset because lesser teams almost did it in Fresno State and Minnesota. But I'm going to take Michigan by a whisker in this game. I agree with you, PVH. Running the football and good defense typically travels. And I'm going to take Michigan by a whisker. Okay, finally, let's have a look at that Coke versus Woke matchup in Berkeley on Saturday night. That's number 8 Miami against unranked Cal. This game is a 7:30 p.m. Eastern kick on ESPN. Now, game day is actually going to be in Berkeley for this one, guys. My brother-in-law, Greg, who is Mr. Cal, is so fired up for this game. Now, the line in this one...
Is this the first time ever?
I don't know. I have no idea.
It's gotta be.
It's gotta be, dude.
Maybe.
There's no way they've been out.
Maybe back in the maybe when Aaron Rodgers was there, or they may have had a game day like against USC or something. I don't know for sure.
They didn't even have TV when Aaron Rodgers was there. What are you talking about?
It's been a long time. I think it's safe to say it's been a very long time since game day has been in Berkeley. Now, the line in this one is Miami -10. The over-under is 53.5. Remember, fellas, this is an ACC conference game. Miami is coming off a very shaky, mistake-filled 38-34 win over Virginia Tech last Friday night, a game they were very fortunate to win. Miami quarterback Cam Ward threw for 343 yards and 4 touchdowns against the Hokies, but he also committed 3 turnovers. And Virginia Tech ran for over 200 yards against that Hurricane D, averaging over 6 yards a carry. The Canes are going to be facing a very good Cal defense in this game. The Bears are 23rd nationally in total defense. They're 16th in defensive yards per play. They're 12th in scoring defense, and they're 11th nationally in takeaways. Cal's also coming off a bye. They did not play last Saturday. Now, the only blemish on their record is a 4-point loss at Florida State 2 weeks ago. CP, how do you see this game playing out?
Coke or woke, first of all, that is fucking hilarious. This is the first time that College Game Day has ever set foot on campus in Berkeley. And Marshawn Lynch is the guest picker, which I love that dude. He's great. I think he's fucking awesome. I think Cal is going to fucking cover. I don't know if they're going to win, but I think first time there, like College Game Day, Marshawn Lynch, dude. Like I feel there's something like the Canes are looking good. Cristobal's got them back where they were supposed to be last year. But I think this might be a letdown game for them. I think Cal covers. I'm not sure if they're going to win, but Cal covers. That's what that's where I'm at.
It's a long flight from Miami, right, to the East Bay. Yeah, long way to travel.
Not if you have cocaine.
PVH, give us a
versus woke.
PVH. Who do you like in this game?
So it's funny because on Tuesday or whatever, I'll do a line and start to look at. No, I'm kidding. I'll start to kind of scroll through games and okay, who's playing? What are the good games? And there's 50 games, and I stopped at that and I was like, holy shit! And I wrote it down. It was 12.5. The line's actually come down.
Yeah.
So now it's 10. And I don't get it. I seriously don't understand it. I mean, Cal lost to Florida. And
Florida State,
Uncle Greg is listening to this pod. I'm going to need him to call me and tell me why I'm not backing up the boat on Miami to win this game. I don't get it. Unless it's a trap, I love Miami to just win this convincingly.
Okay.
Because they're going to be all yacked up when they get off the plane.
Like you. Yeah, of course, man.
Coke and woke.
I'm going to go with Cal.
You always take Coke over woke.
I'm going to go with Cal. Right. I think the Bear defense is going to force Cam Ward into a few bad decisions and a couple of turnovers. I think they win a low-scoring slugfest by a field goal, and my brother-in-law Greg is over the moon.
Yeah, Greg.
Well, hey, dude, I'll be rooting for him. Totally. I mean, I'm going to be rooting for Cal.
Is he going?
Oh yeah. He's going to be on the field with the team. Greg is
that's awesome.
He's a booster and runs one of their NIL collectives and owns and runs their largest fan site. Greg is very plugged into Cal and
way, dude. Dude, let's go, Greg, dude.
Yeah. All right,
brother.
So I'll roll with you guys.
You're calling the Cal upset. All right.
Yeah, let's do it.
I love it.
Yeah, there'd be nothing better. Let's go Bears.
A nice nightcap too.
Yeah.
Okay, fellas, listen, that was a nice effort for a Thursday night. Thanks so much for making the time. For our listeners, check your feeds for a recap of the Iowa game on Sunday afternoon. Until then, thanks so much for listening, and go Bucks. You've been listening to The South Stands, a Buckeye football podcast. Follow us on X at South_Stands.